The video that you're about to watch is a video that I've had on my mind for a really long time. I've had the idea for this video for a really long time and just never managed to get it done. A few things came together to make this video to the forefront of my mind, and one of them was I got a comment on the channel by the designer of NoteQuest asking me or pointing me toward his games, and I said to him that I actually had played NoteQuest a long time ago, and it reminded me that I enjoyed it. It's a basic dungeon crawl. We're going to take a more than a close look at it in this video because it's going to form the basis of my character. And he mentioned that he had an expansion, which I don't actually have the expansion, but I took it out again after that comment exchange and remembered how much I enjoyed it. And it reminded me that I wanted to do this video. And I'm calling this video like Dungeon Crawl Plus because my plan in the video is to take a bunch of mechanics and rules and put them together to create a character. And I'm going to play a gnome, and this is going to be my gnome, who's going to go on a basic dungeon crawl. And what this gnome is going to discover in the dungeon is going to come from a variety of resources that I have. And I've posted all of the resources that I end up using in the link below so you can know what they are. Here's just a look at some of them. I'm not sure if they're all going to come into being or in what manner, but I have so much gaming material and I use a lot of it, and a lot of it just sort of sits on the shelf. And I thought to myself, why not make a dungeon crawl for myself, pulling from a lot of the resources that I have that I enjoy aspects of, and just kind of put it all together in a mishmash and see what happens. So that's what this video is going to be, and I will start with showing you how I create my character. And as I said, I want to play a gnome, and in NoteQuest, the other option was a pixie. I love the concept of playing a pixie or a gnome, but the gnome here has 14 HP and the pixie only has 8. And since I want the video to last more than 5 minutes, I think I'm going to go with the gnome instead of the pixie. I did like the idea of getting some 5 spells with the pixie, but I only get 3 with the gnome. But as you'll see, we're not going to, this is going to be my dungeon, I think, and this is really going to be just pulled together from many different rule sets. So while I'm going to give my gnome 14 HP and 3 random spells, I don't think my spells are just going to come from this NoteQuest list of spells. I'm going to get them from somewhere else, and I'm going to give my gnome a little bit of a story. I'm going to give my gnome some other items, and we'll just see how it plays out. So that's why I'm calling it Dungeon Crawl Plus, the plus being all this stuff that I'm just adding in to provide some story, some enrichment, and hopefully an enjoyable video. A few more points of setup I'm going to do before I get to my character. One of it is a D6 table, and I don't have the 6th thing yet. I haven't thought about that yet. For when I go through the rooms, how am I going to populate what's in the room, the basis for that. And I have, prior to the video, taken out my resources that are listed here and flagged possible tables to use for that. I only ended up with 5 of them, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to leave 6 to just what is sort of a natural progression based on the story, or I'm not sure if I roll a 6 where that's going to go yet. The other thing I want to do is I want to make a D8 table, and on the D8 table, we're going to have at a 1 or a 2, if we roll a 1 on that, we're going to do something story development, and whatever that's going to be. And the other roll is going to be an environment development. Now, you know, if you watch my videos, that story and environment for me are very closely linked. So to differentiate them here is somewhat artificial, but it may help in organizing the material and for me in terms of what resources I go to. We're just going to have to see how that develops organically. And then on a roll of 3 to 8, we are simply going to go to this table. So I actually did this in reverse. So at the outset of a turn, we're going to roll the d8, and on a 3 to 8, well, actually before we get to this interior, we're going to go to the NoteQuest to move along the segment sector development of the dungeon as he has it in those rules, and then we will move to my listing here to develop it out, and we'll see how all of this works. I said I wanted to be a gnome, and I also want, there's a bunch of classes here that I could be. I think what I'm going to choose is I want to either be a noble or a scholar, and maybe I'll be a scholar. Maybe I'll be a scholar. It gives me more, and I've got this dagger here, which is, that kind of fits my little character, that guy that I've already chosen. So I'm going to be a gnome scholar, and I'm going to, so that's going to give me 3 spells and 6 spells, 14 HP, a dagger, which is 1d6 plus 1 damage, and then we're going to get to choose our spells and outfit the rest of us. But before we do that, we're going to go to, there's different types of dungeons here: a palace, a crypt, a tomb, a sanctuary, a temple, or a prison. I'm also not going random here. I'm either going to be a scholar in a palace, maybe a sanctuary, or a temple. I want this to be something, maybe we're going to be in a temple. We'll be rolling on this table here, and it says, a beautiful structure stands among the plants and trees of the place. Its architecture is incredible, and its walls are covered with strange inscriptions. The entrance is a large stone door. Behind it, an empty corridor with 4 more doors, 2 on each side. So we're going to start to map that out. We will use this from NoteQuest as much as we can, and we will perhaps go outside of here. I'm not sure, but we do need to start with a name, and we know we're in a temple, and we are a gnome scholar, and I want us to have a reason for being here, and that's where we're going to go first before we start to outfit our character with items and give our character a name and a backstory. We're going to go random here to determine what is happening in the outside world that impacts this area that we're traveling into, this temple, and then we'll connect it to our gnome. So to start with, we're going here, and we're going to roll on this world-shaking events table. It's a D10 roll, and this is going to sort of start us getting into the dungeon. So it's a new organization. So something, the world-shaking event is a new organization, and I'll make a note of that. And let's see. Under new organizations, well, we can see what type of new organization. It's another D10 roll. That's a 6. Philosophy, discipline dedicated to a principle or ideal. Let's go here, and there are 100 adventure ideas. So what we know now is that in the world there's been a new organization with a new philosophy. We'll figure out what that is. And what does our gnome have to do with all of this? This is going to be an adventure idea 48. An antidote to a magic poison must be found before the Duke dies. Okay, so I think, let me make a note of that. So what this is telling me, I had been making some notes about gnome. I'd been making some gnome notes earlier, and my gnome I decided is going to be called Fidget. And I was reading up on gnomes in various sources, and I think in the context of this, basically what this is telling me is that, so the new organization with the new philosophy is, we know that gnomes are basically good. They are worshipers of individuality and nature, and the gnome that I'm going to be playing here, the the adventurer here is a gnome with an affinity toward the Fae. He's got a lot of magic, and as all gnomes, takes delight in life. And I think what has happened here is that a temple has been discovered, and the ruler of this temple is attempting to overrun the gnomish lands with a religion or a philosophy that is against delight, let's put it that way, and that they have succeeded in sending out assassins to the gnome lands and are attempting to poison the duke or the head. We won't call it a duke. I'm not sure what the head of a gnome, the gnome king maybe. The gnome king perhaps has been poisoned, and for some reason the antidote to this poison is here and must be found, and that is the reason for our gnome Fidget to be sent. Perhaps Fidget is somebody, an excellent investigator. He has some skills and desire to do excavation, and like many gnomes, knows a lot about underground adventuring, and maybe he's one of many gnomes that could have come to this temple to investigate, but here he is, and that is, I think that's enough for our external story. And the next thing I want to do is develop the actual character of my gnome with some more stats. Now, coming from NoteQuest here, we are looking, as mentioned, at something pretty basic, and all we get here is we get our HP, and we get the spells as mentioned, and a starting weapon. I think that's really all that we get. However, I can't run my dungeon crawl with just that, because I'm going to be... Oh, we also get torches, and in this game, torches are significant, because if you run out of light, you will die. And might as well read up on here to understand, because I will be using this rule in that darkness is our greatest enemy. If at any time we don't have a torch, the darkness devours us. We lose our character and we have to make a new one. Each torch spend reflects an action that took time. If you're running out of torches, you can go into town to buy more. So we're gonna have to sort of figure out how we use this. Every character starts with 10 torches. Now, to reflect, the idea that gnomes have the ability to see in the dark, I'm going to start my gnome with maybe 15 torches. I'm not really sure about that. We'll see. Again, I may drop this rule, but it's significant to NoteQuest, so I'm going to try to keep to this as I can. And you know, this is a hack, so it may just totally go away. All right, so we're going to go with that. However, that's not enough for my character, because I want my character to interact with the environment more. There may be NPCs, there may be things to do in the environment that I need a structure, a rubric to handle. I want to give my gnome scholar some stats from Rogueland, and there are prepackaged explorers here. You can look at my Rogueland video if you want a further explanation of this system, which is pretty basic, but it's a step up certainly from a lot of steps up from NoteQuest in terms of complexity, and it will give us just enough contours of rules, I think, to allow me to play this out the way that I want to. So we will be giving our character these abilities and modifiers, and I think rather than rolling, I'm going to try to go thematic, and for that I'm going to pick up either the magician, probably the performer stats on the... I think I'm going to go with the performer stats that seem to make sense to me, as opposed to the magician. They're relatively similar. Picking up also inventory slots and the carry level, and I'm going to actually use this Rogueland character sheet for my gnome scholar character. We'll fill that out, and we will start to now figure out what we're actually carrying, and this is kind of the fun part, because we know we have a bunch of spells, and we're going to have some other things that a gnome scholar might have when going into the temple to find the antidote to the poison that is slowly taking away the life of his beloved, you know what, let's make it a queen, his beloved queen. Fun part, we've got our Fidget, the gnome scholar here. Stats are from Rogueland. The HP is from NoteQuest. 15 torches from NoteQuest. Inventory slots from Rogueland, one of which will be filled by a dagger. But the rules overall that I'm using say that the 6 spells are not an inventory slot. This is just something else. So we're basically looking to get 8 items of things and our 6 spells. And we're going to start with the spells for the moment. And I'm picking up here bits and pieces of rules and strings, you could say, tying my gnome character to various rule sets. And the first one is going to be to Pathfinder, where the gnome class, is it a class? No, it's a ancestry and background. The gnome ancestry and background says that they have 1 first level cantrips. So we're going to go to here as a primal spell and take a look at the list. And I'm not going to go, I don't think I'm going to go random here. I think I'm going to go with, I don't know, I like Tanglefoot, conjure a vine to entangle a creature. That's sort of cool. The dancing lights create 4 floating lights you can move. I like that. I think I'm going to go with Tanglefoot. I'm going to go with Tanglefoot. Why not? Or dancing lights. I don't know. The floating lights, I like the idea of it. I don't know. Of course, who knows how any of this is going to come to use. I'm going to go with Tanglefoot. So this is going to be 1 spell. Conjure a vine to entangle a creature. So we will make a note of that. I'm also going to note down the source for it in case I need to. I'll probably, off camera, just make a list of these so I can remember what they are and hopefully use them. So that's spell number 1. For spell number 2, we're going to go to D&D and take a look at first level spells here and choose 1 or 2 of them. I think I want to go with Charm Person. Let's check out Charm Person. Well, you know, the issue here is that this Charm Person, it is for a person. It's for charming a humanoid, and I don't even know if we're going to have NPCs in this dungeon. I mean, we may, but I feel like that could be wasting a spell slot for what I'm trying to do here. I guess what the sort of animal equivalent is this Animal Friendship, which is a first level enchantment for convincing a beast that we mean it no harm. And I think that may be one I'm going to take and modify, because I might find myself in a scenario where I don't want to do a fight. And so maybe I'll try to cast the Animal Friendship. So we're going to make a note of that. D&D, this is going to be page 212, and maybe need to modify how this works. As mentioned, I'm going to create myself a little spell book, and I will indicate not only what the spell does, but I'll try to work it into the rules that I'm packing together before I start, so that I know exactly not only how to cast it, but what the effect of a successful casting would be. And let's see, are there other possible spells here? Now you may say, well, why am I not just taking a bunch of healing spells? I'm going to take the healing spell from NoteQuest, which is a basic spell. I think it restores 4 HP, because I do want to sort of keep the balance of the hit points in line with the same rule set, so that there's actually the possibility that I could die and the possibility of a threat. So I'm going to save my healing spell. I think I'm going to limit myself to 1 to the NoteQuest rule set. So I'm holding that aside. I would like some sort of attacking spell, I think. This is interesting. Chill Touch. You create a ghostly skeletal hand in the space of a creature within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the creature to assail it with the chill of the grave. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 necrotic damage. That's cool. That's not really thematic to a gnome, but maybe my gnome scholar has something from the dark side that they've read about in a book. I'm going to give my gnome scholar the Chill Touch, which is in essence 1 opportunity to do a d8 worth of damage if I can cast this chilly hand to grab a creature. that's speaking to me. So we're going to go with that, and we're remembering that we are going to be picking up the healing spell from NoteQuest. Oh, I was wrong. It heals 5 HP, not 4 HP. So we're going to take a healing spell. So for my next spell, I'm going to try to go as random as possible. So HackMaster is a great place, and there's almost like too much information here because there's a lot of D1000 tables, but I found we're going to choose from here. So the first thing we're going to do is choose an additional first level spell. So that's the D100 roll to start. We rolled a 20. That's going to be an offensive spell, and then we're going to go for this D20 line here. We rolled a 10. We have fire water, so I will get the definition of fire water here as to what it exactly does, and we have then one more offensive capability. So that's from HackMaster. D100 dungeon. We're going to go and see what we get from D100 dungeon that we could port in here. 48. A 48 is almighty. Gain plus 20 strength to the next die roll. Well, you know what? Here's how we're going to interpret that. The way we're going to interpret that is, I'm going to say plus the strength. This spell, we're going to be able to use 1d4 amount of times to buff up a value of something, or re-roll. Maybe we're gonna call that a re-roll, and we're going to get 4 re-rolls. So it's going to be a 1d4. So it's going to be 4 times that we can use this almighty. It's plus strength value or something that we're trying to do that's a non-combat something. That actually works well. I wanted to get a defensive spell, but I didn't. I've got a couple of offensive. I've got the healing, and then I've got some manipulation of environment kind of things with this animal friend. So those are our spells. I want to give myself a trinket. Now I still have my inventory slot, so I need to outfit a little more there with some adventuring gear probably, but I'm going to give myself a trinket of sorts, and for that I'm going to go to here because there's a great table in the back here that is called the Shabby Loot table, and that is where we're going to go. It's a D100 table, and we're going to, our Scholar Gnome has done some things in the past, 77, and from the things that he has done in the past, he has retained Hunter's Bait item. It's non-perishable odoriferous gunk that draws wildlife for up to a mile. Now, I'm not really sure how that is going to help us here, but you never know. So it's going to be non-perishable odoriferous gunk. So we're carrying some gunk. Maybe it's glitter gunk. It smells bad, but maybe it's glitter gunk, or maybe it smells good. I don't know. Odoriferous, it could smell good or bad. So maybe it could attract or repel. And we're going to see, we got maybe 2 pockets. So in our other pocket, one is that odoriferous gunk. We're going to go to this D100 table and see if there's something here. 99. Ooh, maybe it's going to be good. Ooh, a star sapphire worth 100 gold pieces. Well, we're not going to really go with money per se here, but we're going to have some type of valuable gem. And maybe we will find a use for that. Star sapphire is going to be, we'll call it valuable. So that was a nice roll on that. So we've got 1, 2, 3. And to fill out the rest of the slots, I'm going to take a look at Rogueland here. You know what? Let's just go back to our pre-made adventurer here, the pre-packed explorer. We were going with the performer. They would have some type of an instrument that they could possibly use. So we're going to give them a guitar. We'll give them this pole. I don't know. We're going to give them this grease. That could come in handy because I think we said they were sort of a tinker. Now they're a scholar. I feel like they might be carrying around a textbook. There's some type of a book. Well, I'm sorry, I ran out of space there and didn't realize. So in addition to the book, I've given my Gnome Scholar a rope, and I decided to leave this last slot empty because I think this this gnome, this Fidget, is going to be looking around and trying to find things. I don't think he's necessarily going to find anything great, but I want to give an extra open slot to find things and have some fluidity there in terms of what is being carried. So I think at this point we are done. And well, actually, and then the last thing, what I was saying is I do want to roll on this part of this table here, which I like. We're going to give, we're going to do some D20s here to get maybe the virtue, vice, misery, and the past, something like this, to flesh out our guy. And we're just going to take it as we get it, and these 4 things, 10, 3, 15, and 1. So what does this yield us here? A little bit about our irascible, courageous, poor, and an alchemist. All right, well, that fits. I don't know if this gives us too much. The poor thing gives us a little bit. Maybe our gnome scholar is someone, because remember, he's got this performer background. Maybe he worked in the court of the queen, that he was somehow brought into the court of the queen to be taken up by the royalty, the gnome royalty, and as such is particularly attached to her. And this is why he's courageous, and he has volunteered himself to go and find this antidote to the poison that she is currently combating, and that is his motivation. So we're courageous and we are motivated. You know, we know he's got one important thing, one valuable here, which is this star sapphire. So possibly either maybe the queen gave, maybe this gnome is like a favorite of the queen, and she gave this to him. She kind of slipped this in his pocket in case he would need it on his journey. So perhaps that's something that we can use. Maybe it's something we can trade or bribe. I don't know, because we don't yet know what we're going to encounter in this temple, but that is... All right, I have a few finishing touches on things. I've got my spell sheet here with the indication of the spells. I have the spot for my 15 torches because we're going to be following the NoteQuest rules of torch use. And I have a very rough sequence of play here. And I'll say at the outset, this could change because I'm just doing this on the fly. I haven't pre-planned or pre-played to see if this will work out. But first turn, get to the entrance, go in. Thereafter, I'm going to roll a d8 at the outset of a turn, whatever I decide the turn to be, and on a 1 or 2, I'm going to do some story development or environment development. On a 3 to 8, we're going to go to this little chart here, which will tell me which resource I'm going to roll on to generate some aspects of the room. I never really came up with a 6th item, so I just wrote here search, find, or a D100 tile, and I may use these as suggestive tiles to flip over and give a visual cue or prompt for something, I don't know, or I may just find a random table and have my character attempt to do a search and maybe find something. I really don't know. That is roughly how things will go. Additionally, I made a note, our dungeon is going to be 3 different levels. Obviously, we're starting on level 1, and in the 3rd level will be the boss. The task difficulty for non-combat things and things that are coming from Rogueland is going to be a 10, 13, or 15 for easy, normal, or hard. That is a d20 roll plus your relevant modifier. So I've made a note of that. I've also added this, if I roll a 1, it's going to be a critical bad, and if I roll a 20, it's going to be a critical good, and I will determine based on what's going on what the very good or very bad effect will be. In terms of spellcasting and magic, I will be rolling with my intelligence or wisdom. I'm not really sure. I don't have the same value there, so I think I'll be rolling with my intelligence with a +2 to see whether the spell can happen, and that's going to be as against a 13 difficulty. There is one spell that can be resisted, that's Animal Friendship, and I've decided that in order to do a resist, this is a hard resistance, that the potentially impacted enemy will have an opportunity with a d20 with no modifier to roll a 15 or more to resist that spell. Spells can be reused with the exception of Almighty. Almighty allows me to either re-roll or to add a +2 value to something after I've rolled as a relevant stat. I only have 4 uses of that spell. With that all said, we're going to start out with NoteQuest, and we are coming in. Here is our little gnome, and we're not really going to be walking through per se. When I started the video, I thought I was going to do a strict sort of walkthrough with these cards, but I think that's not the way we're going to do it. So we're going to set out here, we're going to do the d6 roll to see what happens, and that's with that we're going inside the temple. We've got a corridor with 2 other doors. I will be mapping this out to some extent, probably mostly off camera. So we're coming from a corridor, and then we are going in somewhere, and we are going to a large room. So we're in a large room, and in this room we're going to roll to see what we have here. We have a small altar with 1d6 coins. It may have a secret passage. All right, cool. So we're going to see, we're going to pick up some money. Oh, 5 coins. We're right up. This is a great start. We are starting out pretty well, and I'm already not prepared because I'm not mapping this properly. But we have a small altar here, and I am going to explore this altar. So exploration, for the way I'm playing this game, exploration is going to use, depending on the exploration, for example, if that was like a pile of rocks or something, I would say I'm using my strength value. For here, for exploration, I'm going to be using my intelligence value, so a +2, and I'm going to say that this is a normal exploration, so we're looking here for a 13 or greater with our modifier of +2, and we got that. So we are going to be able to explore this altar, and now I need to go to my resources to see what I can roll up as a descriptive passage for what we find. And finding the right resource is not too difficult. It's in dungeon dressing, and we've got definitely something with altars here. Well, it's not telling us. All right, well, let's do this. Let's start here, I guess, with the D100 roll to see what we get there. 80. So we approach this small altar. We found some money already, and it says a mosaic decorates the top of the altar. So there is some mosaic here, and let's give it another roll. It doesn't seem, so far it's not threatening. It's got money and a mosaic, 17. A pool of dried melted wax almost covers the altar. Red and white wax mix to form a lurid smear of color. All right, so we have mosaic and red and white wax, and we found some money. So I think that's all we're going to get here. That's all well and good as a beginning. I want to go to a table that is going to give me something else, something more evocative, and I know I have this evocative random rooms table from this book, so we will see if we can a bit add to this description in a way that will be helpful. Deathly. Okay, so perhaps this altar and the wax here, the wax is evidence of something that once was here that is no longer, and it is not even despite the coins that maybe were left behind by the person who left behind the wax, it is a deathly place, and probably a place we want to leave pretty quickly. So now, per my little sequence of play, we will be rolling our D8, and we'll be moving on to something else. And
It'll either be another room or something else. We got a 2. So we're going to develop the environment a little bit more. So this, unfortunately, we're here in this Deathly Altar room, and we're going to develop this environment a teeny bit more. Just a brief note of correction. I failed to do the secret passage search in this altar room. It indicated there was one, and I did do that. I spent a torch to do that, but unfortunately I rolled a 2, so there was nothing there, but I did actually do that. And now we're going to do the little story development, environment development exploration of this space. And for that, I'm going to turn to this table, which comes from a solo supporting document that I used when I did my Blades in the Dark video. You can see the link to that video up here. And we're going to roll these 3d6, and we're going to look at 214 and see if what this suggests to us. And I may be using this further, I may not. We'll see how it goes. I don't know what this suggests. That's what I got. That's what I got. Well, we noted that it was a deadly room that had some melted wax here and mosaic decoration. There was, and oh, deathly, and it was a deathly space. This looks like a cracked shield, perhaps a cracked, well, it mostly looks like a cracked shield, so I'm going to say that someone perished here, and we will add that, but I'm not sure we're getting much more than that. And now we're going to move on to, we're going to come out of this corridor here and see where we go next. Well, I will actually, we may come back to this. So someone perished here. I'm going to say that's a broken shield. And I am actually going to make a note of this 214 that I rolled, because you never know. I don't know how I'm going to play this out. This is going to be a persistent dungeon. I may come back here and look for something, or I don't know. I don't know. We're just starting out clearly here. All right. So let's move on and see what we got. That was a 2. We have a corridor. So let's see. We're coming out of this room. I can't remember. We were in a corridor. So we've got a medium-sized room with another door, and we're going to roll our 2d6 to see what could be in this room. We've got a 12. Ooh, a desk with 1d6 treasures in the drawers. So this is maybe we're at the beginning of the dungeon. We have this altar room. We have a room with a desk in it. Maybe it is some type of workspace or organizing. Remember, this is underneath a temple, which I think as of yet is unnamed, I realize, but it is perhaps the office of the person who was running this temple, organizing this temple. We have a desk in here with 1d6 treasures in the drawers. So let's do our roll here. It's not 1d6 treasures, it's the 1d6 table. Oh, it has a valuable jewel worth 2d6 times 10 coins in the town. Well, you know, we have 70 coins basically. We have a jewel with worth 70 coins here. All right, so this does say this is going to be some sort of an office space. And it actually has a door that I failed to note before. So we will go from this, we're going to go from this room to something. And where are we going to go? We're going to go into a wide room. Now, this doesn't really say that there's a door here, but what is in this room? We got a 9. 2d6 paintings of demons, 1 coin each. It may have a secret passage. Okay, so perhaps this is off the office. Perhaps this is some sort of a conference room that was that was created. I'm going to call it a conference room because, and why does it have paintings of demons if it is a temple? Well, you will recall that I will recall for you that part of our story, indeed, was that an organization had taken over, a new organization had taken over with a philosophy or principle that was antithetical to the gnomish way of life. And indeed, if it was something like demonic, that would be clear that that was the new organization. So I think this is the conference room of the new organization, and they are setting up their table and their photos on the wall, or their paintings on the walls of their leaders and their historical figures of import that are demonic. This may have a secret passage. I think we're going to need to search for it, because I guess there is no indication here that there is a doorway. So we're going to spend a torch and we're going to do the secret passage search and see if we get something better. That doesn't seem good. I don't remember the table, but we rolled a 1, so there is a trap. And we will find what the trap is. It's a D6 trap. So of course they're going to trap their conference room, obviously. We hear a click, but nothing happens. So our luck holds out for the moment, but we're going to put an indication that there is a trap here, because if we come back, we will perhaps reactivate it. And I realize also I've deviated badly from my own sequence of play idea, and maybe some of you watching the video are saying to yourselves, why aren't you going back to your sequence of play? I was meant to be rolling here on this little various thing that I did to determine how I was developing these rooms, but I seem to have managed okay so far with just NoteQuest. But now with the basis of this, we're going to go back to my sequence of play, and I guess I've been integrating this story development and environment development along the way. This is something as an aside. If you're trying to do something like this, obviously, and it is organically developing, you will find out whether you need to do something as structured as this D8 roll that I thought would be useful to decide if you're doing a room or story development. I guess I'm just doing mine alongside each other. Another way to create a table like this would be to come up with 6 or 8 or even just 4 different aspects of development. So it could be development about the past. It could be development about the current environment. It could be development about the character. And give yourself a little random table to develop, round out the story in that way. And maybe I'll create something like that here now moving forward. I don't know. But let's take a roll here, since now I'm remembering this whole thing. Let's take a roll here on this table and see what let's just find something from this table and go from there. That takes me to 3.5, and let's look at that. Okay, so my concept here in 3.5 is this is just very basic, giving you a suggestion of what you could develop in here. And it could be, well, we'll just do the roll. I mean, this is a hack. So we've been standing here. We didn't think we saw anything, and then suddenly, whoops, 21. 21 is a monster and feature. So we were developing some of these features, and now there's going to be some monster here as well. So we've been standing around looking at these demonic paintings and contemplating whether we could take them off the wall and sell them. They're worth 1 coin each, although I don't really think we could be dragging around 2d6 worth of paintings of demons. So indeed, a monster appears. And who is the monster? We're going to get the monster from NoteQuest. Monster 2. 2d6 imps, 2 HP, 1 damage each. Well, that makes sense to me, because the imps are the little guardians of this conference room, and they are coming out of some invisible doors or passageways in the walls, 2d6 of them, and we will see how many of them there are. Of course, there's 8 imps. 8 imps come out to sort of surround us here, and we are going to, I don't think there's a monster reaction table, and I don't really think we need to guess how they're going to be reacting. They're not happy, but this should give us an opportunity to do a little bit of combat and maybe search their bodies in the future for something. And we're going to go to my hack for the scenario, or the combat encounter here. We're standing, our gnome is here, these imps are rushing out of these certainly magically appearing doors here, and there's 8 of them surrounding us. So there's a couple of choices we have to do. The first thing is I want to see whether we are going to be able to act first or they are. This is going to be us in white, and we are just about able to get off some type of attack or magic or whatever. And we have a few options to do that. And we've got a couple of spells here we could try to cast. We've got Tanglefoot, which would be to conjure a vine to like entangle some amount of them. Not sure it indicates how many of them in this set. I guess I could roll and see what that is. Or we have Firewater. Firewater does say it does 5 damage to all the monsters there. Each of these 8 imps has 1 HP. So I don't know if that's 5 damage total or 5 damage each. I think it's probably, have to go back and look. I bet that's ambiguous. So I would probably say it does a total of 5 damage. So maybe I could get rid of 5 of them that way. Well, actually, let's see. Did I say how many HP do they have? They have 2 HP each. So that's not going to super help me. Or I could attempt to charm them, charm the imps. I think I'm gonna attempt to cast Tanglefoot and get out of here. There's just a lot of them. Although I don't know how many I'll be able to entangle. So here's what we're going to do. We are first of all going to attempt our spell, and then we'll see how many of that 8. This could be a fail, but we're going to take a chance that we can entangle a bunch of them in some kind of vine and lessen the damage coming in from the rest of them that are running around trying to attack us. To cast a spell, we need to roll a d20 as against a 13. It's normal for us. The task difficulty here is normal because we are a magic user. We are going to get a +2 modifier to our roll. Ooh, we rolled a 20. Awesome. So not only did we definitely cast Tanglefoot, but we get a critical good, as I indicated in the rule setup. A 20. Natural 20 is a critical good, and the critical good here is that we are going to entangle them all. That is how I'm interpreting that. So we cast this wonderful magic spell of vines that kind of come out and surround and entangle all of these imps, and they're squirming underneath them, but they can't get to us. They can't attack us, and we are left here with them. Unfortunately, we can't then search their body for anything because we can't really go touch them. They're squirming around under this, but we can get out of here, basically. So we're going to exit this conference room area. We know for the future that it is trapped. Maybe there's something to search for in here that we can come back for. I don't know. We're passing through this office, back into the corridor, and now that I'm remembering, we're going to go back to my original idea for the sequence of play, give another roll, and turn to the GM Gems book to see where we find ourselves at this point. And let's see, this is the empty room table here, and we will roll that up and see what is at the end of this corridor here. 88 is at the end of the corridor, and 88. A dire albatross appears and demands to be carried by the wielder or else. But it's somewhere in this corridor, there's an albatross. Now the question is this a actual albatross, or is this some type of story development metaphor? I'm going to give that a thought and come back and see where we go. This is telling me, as I think of it, that the albatross demanding to be carried is going to be metaphoric, and that perhaps Fidget's obligation to the queen is connected with some guilt that he feels because she really did take him in off the streets and bring him into the courtly life that he enjoys, and he
needs to help her in a way that's motivated more than by just courageousness or some type of noble aspiration. So this is telling us we need to press on, and I'm going to go back to my original sort of semi-sequence of play that I forgot about first by rolling this D8 to see that we're going to now go to a new environment, and the new environment is going to be a search and find D100 tile. So the way, well, I put D100 tile question mark. I wasn't really sure. My concept here was to pull in one of these tiles and just use this visually as suggestive somehow. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, I thought I would build the map this way, but I decided not to do that. So what we have here is, as the corridor continues, it looks like we have a fallen adventurer. And so as we're continuing down this corridor here, we are going to find there is some type of a body or the remnants of somebody, and we're going to search that body and see who, if we find something, or I'm sure I have some tables for this. And we're going to go to the Maze of the Blue Medusa to this I Search the Body table. This is a D100 table. And let's see what we find here, 33. On this body, we find currency worth GP shown on dice. So we would find 33 coins in this body, and interestingly, this actually could potentially fit into this story in the sense that we already found those other 75 coins, or 70 coins, and so we're going to find 33 more coins. This will come into play when we go into town to buy some stuff, but it's telling me that it's confirming that this is indeed sort of the workspace area of this temple and the inhabitants of this temple, the oppositional forces that came to occupy it are very well supplied, and that this new organization, this principled, this philosophy of these people is really going to be very strongly propagated because it is well funded. So this is telling me I'm getting themes here of wealth and abundance and things of that nature. And with that, we will continue on and see what we get, where we're going here. We're going back to the GM gems, and that, I think that was a D100, to C50. A 1-foot wide shaft leads straight up into the ceiling with sunlight filtering through from the outside. Bad guano on the floor suggests that this is not the room to be in at night. Well, it's filtering up to the temple area here, and that is telling me that is reminding me of the light from above, and I'm going to take that as a cue to perhaps go back to our original temple sheet. So we have the shaft of light here from above, bringing us back to this temple, the beautiful structure, and let us roll on this room content here. It's a small altar with 1d6 coins. It may have a secret passage. So we've got another altar space here with more 1d6, more money, basically. A lot of money here. Well, there's only one coin there, so make a note of that. And it may have a secret passage, so we're going to use a torch to do an exploration for the secret passage and see what we get. We got a 4. We have found a hidden chest. So there is a chest of sorts here, and that's a terrible drawing of a chest. Let's see if, I don't know if there's, found a hidden chest, but I don't see how here, treasure wonders, I mean, maybe it has treasures in it? Is that what, do we think it has some treasures in it? Well, here's what we're going to do. I don't see the rules in here for specifically, is it locked? Can we access it? So we're going to go back to some of our stats here, and we're going to do a dexterity roll. We'll just say it's normal. I guess it's going to be a normal DC, because
you know, it's a hidden chest in a dungeon. That seems pretty routine almost. So with our dexterity of a +1, we need to get a 13 or greater to open it up, and we rolled a 1. So that is a critical bad thing. We should probably not have done that, but we did. And so something bad is going to happen. And I think the bad thing, obviously, is that we investigated this chest. It is trapped, and we're going to set off a trap here, and we'll go back to NoteQuest and see what kind of trap we have. That is a 1. A blade falls from the ceiling. Roll the dice. On a 2, you lose one of your arms, and on a 1, you die. Well, this could end really badly. Oh my god. Oh my god. We just died. We just died. Well, that was a very abrupt ending to this. That was a very abrupt ending to this story, but that's what happened. I made my choice, and as you can see, I do not fool with the die rolling when I make these videos. We just died. We just died. And I don't think there's really, I'm not going to go back and fix this. So this is, I apologize. That was a very abrupt ending. Something you might want to note if you ever pick up NoteQuest. There's the potential for a very quick ending. So a blade came down from the ceiling, and it just killed us. This trap here killed us. We died with a bunch of coins in our pocket, and yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. And we also have this star sapphire that we never got to use. Well, in any event, I'm just now slightly unprepared to end this video, but end it we have. I will say that I hope this gave an example of one way in which you could piece together a bunch of different resources, a rubric of rules, random tables, suggestive, generative things, all the types of resources that I've talked about over the course of this channel that one can bring together to make a game, basically. And in this case, it was a dungeon crawl kind of plus. I gave my character a bit of a backstory. I located my character somewhere. I gave them some very rudimentary stats to allow them to do certain things. We didn't get very far. I mean, there's a lot more that could have happened. Maybe my gnome scholar will come back in another incarnation to do something else somewhere outside or in a different dungeon, or in a dungeon with different rules. In any event, I don't think I'm quite done with Fidget the gnome, but for now, Fidget has perished, and I hope you guys enjoyed the life and the short times of Fidget the gnome.